In the early stage of our learning, we learn many different names of objects, for example, furniture, fruits, and how to make self-introduction, etc. However, all this information is not really helping us to make a real conversation. This is why we are frustrated, because we don't really learn the way children do. What we have to do is to get to know the logic of this language. And also at the same time, we have to forget about sticking to the lesson. Instead, we should experiment with the language and also take the plunge. Remember, endless input is useless and is not really helping us to learn. Inner French is the first French podcast that I listen to. It's suitable for learners of intermediate level as each episode comes with a transcript. The speed is slower than that of most podcasts. Words are also articulated. However, in the very beginning, I had to listen to each episode for at least 2 to 3 times to fully understand it. Now I can understand most of the contents the first time I listen to it. The other 2 podcasts are of normal speed, yet I find them still comprehensible if I pay full attention to them. As for music, I listen to it mostly for pleasure. However, I sometimes study and learn from the lyrics of a song. If you listen to songs of your target language, they mostly help you deepen the connection between words and their pronunciation. Learning with a teacher has helped me a lot in terms of my pronunciation, conversations, and writing. But of course, it's not necessary for everyone. It really depends on what your goal is. For those of you who are ambitious to achieve an advanced or even a near native level, having a tutor should be necessary. What my teacher and I do most of the time is I talk about everything in French while he corrects and rephrases what I say. This, of course, can be applied to writing. Of course, I do a lot of outputs instead of just listening. By doing so, I reach higher levels of outputs because I don't merely get my meanings across like what I do at language exchange, where my native counterpart doesn't always correct me. My teacher corrects me where half of the time he asks me to reflect on sentences that I say and make the correction myself. I don't have a habit of memorizing words because it doesn't work for me. What I normally do is to list words and phrases that I don't understand on my notebook, and then I make a sentence for each of them. It will be much easier for me to recall them next time when I'm having a conversation. And also sometimes I would combine 2 phrases or 2 words together and put them into one sentence. By doing so, it will be easier for me to remember them. Speaking and writing are both output activities. Many have a myth that beginners simply can't speak nor write well, so they have to wait till later stage of learning. However, this will only get one stuck in certain level and probably will never have the courage to start speaking and writing in this language. From beginners to learners of intermediate levels, I recommend to first write down what you want to say, then if possible, have it corrected. Finally, retell it to your teacher or someone you meet at language exchange. If you have neither of them, then retell it to yourself. The process forces you to use whatever you've stored in your brain to construct sentences and paragraphs. It's time-consuming and strenuous, but it definitely works. I attend a language exchange once a week now. It's an occasion where I can test how well I've learned and retell stories that I've written. It's a strenuous yet exciting process of both input, listenings, and output, speaking. This practice is against most language learners' nature. We tend to stay in the comfort zones of inputs instead of screwing up our courage to actually use the language. I remember attending my first language exchange when I had only been learning it for a month. I strained very hard but didn't understand much. What encouraged me a bit was that I was able to get my meanings across. I literally retold a story where I wanted to buy some curry but got rejected by a French woman because I didn't speak this language, which was an experience I had already written in class. Even though we make mistakes in this process, our brain is actually being stimulated and gets used to the logic of this new language.